Hey, and welcome to the Crew Podcast. We are the hottest podcast rocking right now. We are currently looking for 6 amazing hosts to join our family for season 2 that will kick off February the 1st, 2024. If you're looking for an opportunity to allow your voice, your perspective, and your brand to be heard around the world and seen around the world, then join the Crew Podcast.
Aspiring Authors Magazine is a founding sponsor for the Crew Podcast. Get featured inside the magazine and allow your voice to be heard around the world.
Aspiring Authors Magazine is an international magazine founded in May of 2020 by Queen Angela.
Well, welcome to another episode of the Crew Podcast. Of course, I am the visionary of the Crew Podcast, and I tell you, I have truly enjoyed being able to come from behind the camera, come from behind the scenes, and have this opportunity to interview some amazing visionaries. Before we jump in, y'all, I want y'all to take this opportunity to share this in your circle of influence, because you never know what the next person may be in need of, what the next person may need to take them to the next level. It may be this person's voice that's needing to help take you to the next level. So I want y'all to share this out. I'm telling you, you're going to walk away tonight feeling educated, empowered, and encouraged. I call it the E3 experience. We have no other than Prophetess Michelle McKenzie with us tonight. And I'm going to bring her up and allow her the opportunity to introduce herself.
Well, good evening. Thank you, Visionary Angela Smith, for the opportunity to share on your platform. It's a privilege and it's an honor to be here to share my story, talk a little bit about me and my vision of what God has for me. I don't take it lightly. I know that you're a very busy person and you could have selected anybody else. I've looked at your stuff on Facebook and see that you have a plethora of people that you could pull. So I appreciate the opportunity that you put me to share just a tad bit on your platform tonight. I am very grateful. To everybody, my name is Michelle McKenzie. I am a prophet by calling. I'm a mother of 3 adult children. I'm a wife to 1 husband for the last 33 years, and I have 8 grandchildren. I am coming up on my 54th birthday in another week, and I am so fantabulated, excited, grateful to God to give me the opportunity just to be able to breathe and to still be in the land of the living. That tells me that He is not through with me yet, and that I still have something to do. So I'm grateful to be here. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Miss Angela, Visionary Angela, to share on your platform tonight.
Thank you. I tell you, I happened across your page. I think you were ministering, and it was just something. I know it was the spirit that drew me over there, because I had never come across your page before, and I don't know how long we had been friends, but on that day I was just drawn to your page. And I tell you, I don't take any meeting lightly. I don't think it's a coincidence. I know that was part of His master plan for us to cross paths. And there's a message on tonight for somebody that is tuned in. I tell you, when He dropped in my spirit to do this podcast, it was for us to be the opportunity to be the change that we desire to see in this world. And I tell you, even in the midst of going through, I watched you. You continue to press, and you continue to be transparent, and you continue to tell people, that this is life. This happens. This happens to all of us, no matter who you are, no matter what title you have, no matter what. This happens, and you were
Amen.
transparent. You were real,
Ab-
and that's what we need in this world today. We truly need that. So I tell you, I had to get you on this platform because that is what that's what I share. That in everything that I do, that's what I share. People got to understand. We got to meet people where they are, and we can't forget where we came from. We want everybody to come on in, and we want everybody to be right there on that level. But we didn't just get there overnight. It took some time, and we had to go through some stuff. And I tell you, I'm gonna move on out the way because I'm telling you, I can go. And this ain't about me. This is about you. I tell you, you are doing some amazing things, and I just need the world to hear about you on tonight.
Okay, thank you so much. So let me just, if you want to share a little bit about me, my story. My story is one of rejection. I am almost 54 years old, and when my parents, just to go back a little bit to lay a quick foundation, and I'm going to bring it forward in the time span that we have. When my mother got pregnant with me, she my oldest sister, she was already about 9 months old, so this was her third. I was the fourth child. And so my mother didn't want me. It was the fourth child for my mother and the second child for my father. So they didn't want another child. They were poor. This is in Jamaica over 50 years ago. So my mother decided she was going to have an abortion. Now, abortion in the islands is taboo. You're outcast if anybody finds out that you do anything like that. So they would typically just go to get some herbs or drink some herbs or go to a bush doctor and have them, whatever they did then. So my mother decided she was going to, wash me out. And the night before she did that, she had a dream, woman of God. She dreamt that her grandmother came to her and told her not to abort me because I'm going to be the one to take care of her. So I literally was saved by a dream the night before my mother was supposed to do away and wash the fetus out. And so I came out of rejection, not because my parents didn't love me, but in their mind, they couldn't afford another mouth to feed. So they would have rather not have an extra mouth to feed than to have an extra mouth and cannot take care of it. So I grew up into that was the fabric of which I was moving into in the natural. And so, my mother, I was about 4 years old when my mother and my father split up. And I remember that moment vividly when my mother and father they were fighting because my father was cheating on my mother. He had another baby mother with another baby out there, and my mother found out, and she was going to chop him with a machete. So I ran. I was about 4 years old. I got in the middle of them, and I started crying and holding on to my dad's leg. And my mom held the machete, and my dad was trying to take the machete out of her hand. And in the process of him trying to take the machete out of her hand, it sliced her hand. So my mom had a big slice in the middle of her hand. So I lived and I saw that. I saw what you would call abuse in some sense. I didn't. My father wasn't an abuser in terms of physically, but in terms of the fact that he was cheating on her and all that stuff. That's a form of abuse. So I saw all of that, and in that moment, my sister and our lives was ripped apart. My mother and my father broke up in that moment. I remember my father moving out. I was about 4.5 years old. That's Angela. That's one of my first memory as a human being. One of my first memory is remembering my mother and my father breaking up, and I was standing on my father's shoes, crying. And I remember that they broke up and we ended up living with my mom, and they lived in two separate towns. But my dad used to come and get us on the weekends because my dad is now a police officer in the island, and he would come and pick us up on the weekends. And so one particular weekend he came and got us, and we spent the Saturday and the Sunday afternoon he was taking us back home. When we got back to my mother's apartment, or she rented a house in a city in Kingston, this is in Jamaica. My mother had moved with her new boyfriend. All of my clothes, all of my sister's clothes, everything was gone. We didn't know where our mother went. And so in that moment again, I am now experiencing the third time being rejected by parental rejection, the third time. So we ended up now living with my father and a stepmother that didn't want us around. We weren't good enough. So and when I say we, I meant my sister and we became the Cinderella in that home. We were the ones that would clean the house, do all the dirty dishes, do everything. When school would open, we wouldn't go to school for 3 weeks sometimes before we would get to go to school, because in the islands you had to wear uniform to school. So we didn't get to go to school. So I was shaped with just feeling that I don't belong, or I was an obligation to those that were supposed to take care of me. But in my spirit, or in my heart, I had a resolve as a young girl that I was going to become somebody. I was going to be somebody in this world. I was not going to and I don't know where that came from, because it wasn't taught, that I was going to make something of myself. And that was my whole goal in life, to become somebody. So, fast forwarding a little bit, living with my dad and my stepmom, the worst treatment, lived like the Cinderella in the home. She didn't take care of us. We didn't get food sometimes, even though food was in the house. We had to clean. I remember I went to school for 7:30 in the morning, and I had to clean the front porch, the back porch, the bathroom. Sometimes I had to sweep the front of the yard before I go to school. And I'm talking about cleaning it with a brush on my knees, rubbing the floor, making sure it shines. And so that's the kind of life that I grew up in. I know what rejection is, but what God did to me in all of that, he gave me a whole level, almost like a whole different dimension of compassion towards some other people. I have a big compassion for people. I want to always help. My heart breaks when I see homeless people on the street, or I'm quick to help. I've taken my clothes off and I'm giving to people before, literally. Somebody asked me for my outfit, and I stopped in a market, buy something else, and gave them the outfit that they wanted. I live a life of giving just because of the fabric I was created out of. And so as I grew up in life, I was able to come to the United States, and I colored a lot because that's like several books before I even get to the United States. But for time's sake, got to the United States, and as I'm here, I got married and started a family. And I got saved when I was about 25 years old, 23, 24, between 23 to 25, I really got saved. Now, my grandfather was a pastor, so I knew church. I grew up in church, but I didn't give my life to the Lord or submit to the will of the Lord until I was about 23 or between 23 to 25. But I remember when I gave my life to Christ, I had a good job. I was always a lifelong student, so I was always going to school. And that came from that rejection, the residue of rejection that I had too, that I felt like I always had to be achieving something, always doing something, always trying to, aspire to do something always. I'm always doing something. And I realized at one point that I need to stop, because that was really because of the residue. It's almost like nothing I do was good enough. I always wanted to do more for myself. Like nothing that I did was going to be good enough for me. And to the Lord, I had to stop. But anyway, and so got saved, living for the Lord, got married, have 3 beautiful children, 2 boys and a beautiful daughter, and just living for the Lord. And several years ago, I have adult children. They're grown. 2 of them is married, but I have 2 boys. My youngest son, which is what I want to own it on, about when it comes to rejection. He met this young lady, and all of a sudden he just estranged himself from the family, does not connect with anybody in the family, doesn't talk to any one of us. This is the son that God gave me. This is the son that I was going to abort And the Lord told me that he's a son and he belongs to him. This is the son that used to bring me flowers from school. This is the son that made me tea at night to make sure, Mommy, I make sure, give me a cup of tea, put it at my bedside. This is the son that used to have Bible study in my house. And this son, talking about rejecting, as now rejected me, rejected our family. He is, I'm not sure where he is. Don't know where in the world he is at this point. Don't know what he's doing. And I am just crying out for mothers or families that have a child that just went apostate or just went rogue and don't know for what reason, but just actually disconnect themselves from the entire family. And part of that is the rejection that I suffered when it affected me deeply because of the rejection that I came under. So I tried to make sure I gave my children everything. I worked hard. They went to college. The youngest one, he's a nurse, and just went apostate. And it took me back to my life when I was younger and all the rejections that I went through, because I didn't talk about a lot of them because it would just take too long, that I went through, and how when I got pregnant with him, I didn't want another child. I already had my daughter and my son. And when I got pregnant with him, I was married, but I decided I only wanted two. So I didn't want another child. And I remember when I found out when I was pregnant, I myself was going to have an abortion. And then I started spotting. So I went to the doctor and they said that it wasn't an ectopic pregnancy. And I heard the heartbeat about 3 weeks old. I heard the baby's heartbeat. And I knew that time that it was a life. And I said, Lord, let it be a boy. Because I already had a boy and had all the baby clothes. And I laid my hands on my stomach. I was 23 at that time. And I began to pray over my stomach. And I said, God, I give this child back to you. This one is yours. This one, because I wasn't going to keep him. And because you spared his life. If I didn't hear a heartbeat, he wouldn't have been here. You spared his life. This one I'm giving to you. I'm going to be the caretaker, but he belongs to you. And that is the son that is now in an apostate state, that has disconnected himself from everybody. We don't know where he is, what he's doing. We don't know anything about him. And my heart, it was just so broken over that I struggled with that for the last 3.5 years, woman of God, because it was no reason for it to happen. He met this young lady, and he basically is Samson and Delilah. And that pretty much that's typically what's going on. It's a Samson and Delilah story all over again. But I'm just praying for mothers out there that maybe have gone through rejection, that maybe have gone through some disappointing things in their lives, and they see that now duplicating in the lives of their children, that we have to learn to break these strongholds. And even though they may have been out there, even though they're out there, we don't know where they are. God knows where they are. Even though we might not know what they're doing, God knows what they're doing. And I would say to mothers out there, don't stop praying for your son or your daughter. Don't stop praying for your children. Do not give up on them, even when they give up on themselves. Because God is not a man. He cannot lie. And whatever he tells you that he's going to do, he will do it. I gave this son unto God, just like Samuel's mother gave him unto the Lord. I gave him unto God. So I know sooner or later he's going to come full circle. And so sometimes when you've gone through rejection of your own, you begin to wonder if you did something wrong, if you could have did something a little bit better. You begin to basically blame yourself for that, because you feel like maybe it's something that you did, or that would have made things be different in the lives of your children. But sometimes when God have an assignment for them, he'll allow them to go. God allowed Moses to wander in the wilderness for 40 years to break off Egypt off of him, so that he could build him up in his likeness and in his image. He didn't want Moses to act like he's better than the Israelites. He didn't want, so he made him walk through the desert barefooted, without had to eat figs for food for 40 years, and then he built him up again. Could it be that God have my son out there going into where he is, so that he can understand the language? He say he's a Jew now, all right, so he can understand that language, so he can go back and minister to the Jews. What if your daughter or your son is out there creating or making their testimony? I'm saying to you, like I say to myself every day, don't give up on your children. Even though sometimes you feel like you can see the repetition that happened to you, you see it manifest. You got to break those ties, but you still stand and you keep praying for your children.
Wow. Wow. I mean, that's heavy. And a lot of people need to hear that tonight, because a lot of people are going through. I'm actually working on a book right now. It is a book for women that are incarcerated. Some of these women have been incarcerated since they were teenagers, 15, 16, 17 years old. And they're in their 40s now. And a lot of them have lost hope. They don't think that they'll ever see the outside again. And God dropped in my spirit to just encourage them, to just have people to write letters, affirmations, poems, whatever was dropped in their spirit, to just encourage these women, to let these women know that they're not alone, that it's people out here that's praying for them, that's wishing them well, and don't even know them. You know, sometimes people just need to know that, you know, somebody's there with me. You know what I'm saying? Praying with me.
Exactly.
And you don't even have to know what I'm going through. But we all going through something.
I mentor
but
a
we
group
just
of
lift
women
up
in
a
the
prayer.
prisons on Mondays, in the county that I live in Florida. And what I find is it's a very transient prison. They go in and out, and most of them is because of substance abuse or selling drugs or something like that. And what they would tell me is that they said that they are afraid of the free world. I mean, the language that these women use in prison is it's almost like a whole language in and of itself. And they say that they survive better. They prefer to be in prison, the ones that I see, because they don't know how to function in the free world. They're afraid that if they're in the free world, they're gonna run into their dope giver again, and then all their families has turned their backs on them, so they have nobody but the people that they use drugs with, and so they're very hopeless. And sometimes when they share their story, some of them been molested when they were one of them, the father been molesting her since she was 6 years old, right up until she was an adult. He molested her right up, and the parents they were the ones that started her drug habit. They gave her drugs when she were little. She been taking drugs since as long as she can remember. So I hear the heart of the people, woman of God, when and all of that too. The root of that is rejection. You know, those parents, they were dropped somewhere. You know, they were dropped. Nobody picked them up. They had nobody to pick them up or pick them up the right way. And so they grew up in life being dropped, and they themselves now have children that are dropped. And the cycle continues. And if we don't break that cycle by reaching out to these women and letting them know that they're loved unconditionally, and although they're in prison physically, they can be free in their mind, you know, because a lot of times we have to be emancipated from the mental slavery. And if we don't emancipate our minds from the natural bars, you know, we won't be free from the spiritual bars. So we have to go back into them and let them know, although they may have perimeters around them, they are free in their spirit, you know, because the Bible said, whom the Son set free is free indeed. There's a lot of people that are walking in the free world and they're not free. They have bondage in their mind. So many people now have mental health issues. And then there's a lot of people in prison that are very free in their spirit and in their mind. You know, joy is a state of mind. Happiness is a feeling. And you can be in the midst of a fire and have joy. Or you can be around a lot of people and you're miserable. You're not happy because you don't have the freeness in your mind. So we have to encourage them. And there's something that I do when I listen to these women in the prisons. All of them issue is stem from rejection. It's either societal rejection, spousal rejection, parental rejection, cultural rejection. Some type of rejection is the root of what that started out. It's the genesis of what they're experiencing now, and they're now walking in the result of their actions that started from a rejection. So if we can help, if we can fix the rejective issues, if we can get them and teach them how to overcome rejection, which is what I do. I mentor and overcoming rejection. If you can get them and teach them how to not internalize the things that happen to them on the outside, not to let it become intimately a part of them, and don't see themselves. I was talking to a mentor the other day, and she said, "You're not broken. The situation is broken." So if they could understand that the situation that they've gone through is broken, but they are not broken. They are not broken. They're strong. And build that side of them. Woman of God, build that side of them. Build up, let that part be the part that is magnified in them and not the trauma that they've gone through. If we can magnify the strength in them and diminish the trauma, yes, we're not negating the trauma. We're not saying that these things didn't happen to all of us. We are saying that the strength that you have inside of you is much greater than the trauma that you've experienced in a season in your life. And the fact that you're living and you're still here breathing and able-bodied, that means God is not through with you yet. And you still have a story to tell. And you can go back and pull somebody else out. Pull somebody else out that experienced rejection trauma somewhere and pull them out and say, listen, this is what I've gone through. And look how I'm dealing with it. You know, the Lord gave me a title of a book about 20 years ago that I haven't written yet. It's called Within the Walls of Destiny. A lot of times society wait until they get to the victory before they share and say, you know, but I used to. What about talking about it while you're in it? Knowing that the God that you serve can bring you through it. We have to start having people to say, you know what? I'm not there yet. But in the process of me getting there, I'm not going to give the enemy satisfaction by feeling like I'm a victim. I'm a victor because I'm walking through it. I'm going to get through this rejection. I've been rejected in many years of my life, but rejection is not my story. I may have gone through rejection, but rejection is not who I am. I am the daughter of a queen. I'm an educated Black woman that is on fire for God, that wants to pull her sister up and take the nation by force. That's who I am. I remember with Naomi and Ruth, when Naomi and Ruth went back to their city, back to her city, you know, they called her Ruth the Moabite, right? And so they attached her name to a stigma of where she came out of, which is paganism and child sacrifice and all that stuff, right? So they attach where she came from to her name. They never just say Ruth, they say Ruth the Moabite. Ruth the Moabite. It's like they would say Michelle the Jamaican. So Michelle is not the part that carries the weight, is the fact that I'm Jamaican. And a lot of people think Jamaican is this or Jamaican is that. So when you attach me to where I'm coming from, you're not seeing me for me individually. You're classing me in a whole ethnicity or a whole culture or an area. And so they grouped her as Ruth the Moabite, but they didn't know that Jesus was going to come from her lineage. Although she was pagan by Ruth, pagan from her family heritage, her life became, Jesus came out of her lineage. So I'm saying, not because these women, you know, were in prison or because I went through rejection and they may gone through rejection, that doesn't make us, that doesn't identify us. It's a part of our story, but it's not what defines us. And until these women recognize that what you've experienced doesn't define you, it was just a dot in your story. It makes the story even better to read because you've overcome. You've gone through it and you survived it. And we have to stop waiting until we get to the other side to share that although I'm not there yet, I might still be behind bars, but I'm free in my mind. I might still be behind bars and I'm facing X amount of time. But let me tell you something, I'm an overcomer. And when we begin to share from that place, it will give women, people in general, more hope, because they realize, listen, I don't have to wait till I get there to shout. I can shout right now.
Wow. I'm telling you, you was all up in, I don't know, you was all up in my conversation I've been having all this week. I'm telling you, God is so good, because this is what I try to get people to understand. And sometimes he just had to bring somebody to just reiterate, because somebody in the back didn't hear it. Somebody didn't hear it. And I tell you, God is doing something, and people need to wake up. They need to wake up and understand who they are. He didn't make no mistakes.
No, he didn't.
Latanya has a show called Delayed Not Denied. And that's what delayed not denied. See, people don't
It's
understand.
delayed. It's not
Sometimes we get
denied.
off
It's
track.
not denied. And it's
Sometimes,
delayed in our eyes. It's right on time for God.
that's it.
Yeah.
Because he will never deny you. Jeremiah 29:11, he declared that he had a plan for us.
He has
He said not to
plans.
bring us harm.
You know, I've traveled, the Lord has allowed me for the last 15 years to travel all over
Yo, I
Africa
tell
and
you,
Europe
wow.
and preach the gospel. I'm an international conference speaker. That's part of what I do. And I've always had a drawing for women. And last year, the Lord allowed me to go to, I was in Durban, South Africa, preaching at a women's conference there. And it's a huge Christian church, but the way how they had advertised the meeting, it was August 9th is National Women's Day in South Africa. So the meeting was Women's Night, but the church billed it as a Women's Day and not a Christian conference, which was why. So a lot of Hindus came to the church, and probably about 50% of the people that were there were Hindus. They weren't Christians. They came to the event, right? They came to the church. And let me tell you something. I've seen so many Hindus came to Christ, came to the altar with their little dot in their forehead, raising their hands. They want to know the God that we serve. They want to know this Jesus, raising their hands. So although you may have gone through some heartaches in your life and some setbacks and some brokenness and some hurts and disappointments, you know, you may have a son that you love dearly, you don't know where he is. You may have a daughter that you haven't spoken to for years, don't know where she is. You may have, you know, family members that you're estranged with, fighting over this or fighting over that. It doesn't matter. God wants us all to let that thing go and to focus on him, because there's a dying world out there. There are people that are dying. There are people that are lost. There are people that are very passionate over the wrong things. There are people that are willing to give their lives for something that is nothing to do with God. And the church is asleep because we're busy. We're busy fighting for platforms. The body of Christ, you know, we're busy focusing on the wrong thing. We allow the enemy to make us distracted. So when you have women like you that want to come together and build a community, a family of people that come together to say, listen, man, iron sharpens iron, and the countenance of one brightens the other. You know, you do what God has tell you to do. I'll lift you up. God, I'm doing what God tell me to do, and I need you to lift me up as well. And we work together. We can tear Satan's kingdom down. You know, a kingdom that is divided cannot stand, but a kingdom that is stand together in unity, you cannot break it. Which is one of the reasons that God had to come down and break up the Tower of Babel, because the people were so united in what they were doing that he had to split up the languages. He had to let some people talk Chinese and some people talk Spanish and some people talk French. He had to separate the languages because they were so together in unity to do something that is in apostasy. And if we could have that same unity to do something to build the kingdom of God, can you imagine how many people that is in prison that we could help? So when they come to the free world, as they call it, when they come on this side, that they will know how to how to survive because they're institutionalized. If they've been there in their teens, one of my girls, she said she's been going to this particular prison for the last since she was 13. She's in her 40s, so she's back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. They've been institutionalized. They, the people that you want to send letters to, they're institutionalized. They've been there for decades. They don't know how to survive in the outside world. They have to be reoriented again. And we can be the voice that would go in and help them to be reoriented from the inside, so when they come out, they can be good citizens of the society on the outside and not look at the rejection that they came out of, the sufferings that they have, what mom or dad did to them, who didn't do, who should have done and didn't do, who did do and didn't do it right. All of that, they will look at that as a stepping stone, because that's what I've done with my life. All of the hurt and the rejection that I've gone through, every time I've gone to a level of rejection, I use it as a stepping stone. I say, okay, Daddy, you're stretching me higher. And I use it as a stepping stone to get to this another place in the things of God, or get to another place physically. But I don't take it personal, because I know that there's a real enemy out there that doesn't want us to do what God has called us to do. There's a real devil out there. The Bible said we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers and rulers of darkness and spiritual wickedness in high places. So there's a lot of things that is happening in high places.
Yes.
So I don't look at humans when they come. I ask the Lord to show me the spirit behind them. And that's what we have to do, is break off those strongholds behind these men and women that God has called us to reach to behind bars. So when they come out, they don't see themselves as victims, but they see themselves as victors. They've overcome. They're alive, and they're surviving. So that's the passion of my heart, woman of God.
Wow. That's right up my alley. That's what I'm doing out in Texas. I've been pouring into these women and men. We're definitely trying to get them to identify themselves, because a lot of them, they ended up there because they didn't have identity. They were in the wrong place at the wrong time, tagging along because this is what I know to do. Just tag along. You talking about kids, 15 and 16-year-old getting adult sentences when the adults that actually committed the crimes got a life, are not who they are, because a lot of them, they've gotten in the system and they've gotten lost. A lot of them, they were I'm talking about they had to do a whole lot, and it's about understanding who you are, understanding who God created you to be, what your purpose is, walking in that purpose and understanding that. Wow. I tell you, you have definitely touched on some things tonight. These ladies in.
Say it again, woman of God.
I'm sorry. It was a delay. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, you were saying something and I didn't hear.
Yeah, I was saying there were a lot of comments in the comment section. There was one young lady said, boy, she came in at the right time. Ooh, you preaching good now. And another young lady said, that is God's timing is truly perfect. So they were really enjoying what you were sharing on tonight. If you would, please, how can people follow you? How can they tune in to your podcast? How can they purchase your books? How can they support your ministry? And if you have anything that's coming up in 2024, if you would like to share, the floor is yours. And then we'll close out.
Thank you for the opportunity. Well, I am very, very excited that I am starting again a podcast in January, and it's called Word for Word. And it's going to be a platform where I'm going to be interviewing women of God, men of God, different people on different topics. It's going to have a biblical spin because I am a minister of the gospel. So everything I do has to come through that vehicle. I am working on a couple of books, like 4 of them. So now I'll be finishing 2 of them pretty soon. So that will be out. And I travel and I speak in churches and I do conferences. So if the Lord, if you feel led and want me to be a minister at one of your women's conferences or one of your conferences, I've been doing it for the last 15 years. Traveled internationally all over, pretty much all over the world, speaking to the body of Christ. I am very grateful to be on this platform because many people don't do what you do, woman of God. Many people, they just want it for themselves, and you took it upon you to follow the heart of God, which is to disciple your ministry, because that's what you're doing. You're discipling your ministry. The Bible said to go into the highways and the byways, and you're using social media to go into the highways and the byways, and you're not going by yourself. You're calling the other disciples and say, come on, man, come on, let's all go. Let's go in there, go after the people of God. Let's go get them and make them whole and give them make them whole, bring them back to that place that God has called them. And that's an awesome thing that you're doing. And I'm very grateful, and I'm grateful for the platform. If they want to follow me, they can follow me and Michelle McKenzie. That's my Facebook page, or my IG page is the Michelle McKenzie. You can follow me there at the Michelle McKenzie. But if you need to reach me specifically, you could just reach the woman of God. If you can't get me somehow, and she knows how to reach out to me. But it's just an honor to be here, just to share. And your heart is so huge. I can see that you have a burden for the people. You have a burden to see people fulfill their purpose and their destiny. And that is very rare. I have that burden myself, and I want to do, if you could stand on my shoulder and get there, then you could use my shoulder. That's how I look at it. And thank you for allowing not just me, but many to use your shoulder to get to, another level in where they want to be at. And sometimes the people that provide the shoulder don't have a shoulder for themselves. But I want to tell you that God is that shoulder for you, because I can tell that you do a lot for others and it's not reciprocated. But God is a shoulder for you, and He'll open many doors for you in 2024. Many doors in 2024. I pray a blessing over you, woman of God. I feel the prophetic anointing coming here. So, but I can feel that you carry the weight, and God is going to release that. God is going to release that, because He's going to send you destiny helpers that really see the vision in your heart and the passion in your heart, and have the funds, the finances to really take it where it needs to be. And He's also going to move people that's they're users, and they're users, but you just, because of your personality, you just let them be. God is going to remove them because their weight. And every time you say, I'm not doing it again, you still do it again. Every time you say, I'm not going to, and you do it again because of the heart that you have. And God is going to bring you into a place where you're going to have people that genuinely see your heart, and they can't do what you do, but they have the backing to make what you do better. And in 2024, I hear the Lord said that your load will be lighter. God. He said your load will be lighter. Your load will be lighter. Your load will be lighter. And I also see you traveling too. I don't know if but I see you even moving. I am not sure what's going on with that, but I see you moving. And you're toying with that idea, and you're actually struggling with that. But it is of the Lord. I want to let you know, woman of God, it is of the Lord, and you need to go for it and do it. Fresh environment, a newness is coming upon you, because He's putting you around the new people, the people that are, not all of them, but a great portion of the people that you're around. Familiarity breeds contempt. And because they're too familiar with you, because they knew you before. Whatever that before was, they knew you before. And some of them are still in awe that you're doing what you're doing. And so God is going to put you in circles that appreciate what you're doing, appreciate the heart for what you want to do and will help you to take it to the next place. I pray you receive that word, woman of God, because 2024 is the beginning of greatness for you. I see, it's almost like I see you stepping up 3 steps and open the door. And as you open the door, it's almost like the sun ray that's come right in. Like you're stepping into a brightness. Brightness. He's going to do supernatural for you. Supernatural. And he's going to, I hear the Lord said, he's going to amplify your voice. He's going to amplify your voice. So let him do what he's doing. Okay, he's going to cut people that you it's hard to, but you got to let them be. Let it be. It's okay. It's okay. It's not cutting that you don't have contact. It's cutting so that you can move forward. So receive that in Jesus' name.
Every single thing that you just said was just confirmation. I literally just had a conversation with someone on the phone. I've been contemplating, and I'm just going to be real. I've been contemplating to move to Texas. The call that I took before I came on the show, someone asked me what would I do with $5 million. Literally, like, I'm going to play this back to somebody when I talk to them, because if I just tell them, they're not going to believe this. But everything that you just said came out of their mouths too.
Well, he wanted to confirm that with you so that you
know.
So
it was just confirmation.
That is here.
You was not in the room. You did not know.
I don't. As the first time I see the flyer, the first time we connected like this, you know that yeah. But that's the Lord. That's what he does. And he speaks to his prophets when he want to send confirmation to his people, so that you don't have to waver if you should or shouldn't. And then when you're going, no matter what, you'll stand, because you know it's a God thing. You know, you won't say, well, God, I shouldn't have. You'll know that God is going to take care of you. He's going to do what he needs to do, because he's the one that's sending you there. And he confirmed it in his word. He's moving
this
you.
Was truly
new
confirmation
church,
on tonight.
New environment, new everything. He is moving. He's picking you up and moving you. He is moving you. Wow. A clean sweep.
Wow. This was truly confirmation. Like, wow. I truly thank you. I invite you back. I definitely so much you said tonight just coincide with a lot that I've been saying over the last couple of months. Feelings, thoughts that I've had, even conversations that I've had. I am doing I'm getting back to doing a conference, sort of like a expo type conference for authors and Black business owners. And I'll talk to you off air, but I definitely would like for you to be a part of it. We're going to be going to different cities, different states, about 10 different locations we have on the schedule. We just got to get everybody together and get everything just lined up. I have different people that's helping me that's in these different states that's working on them, and we're trying to get everything together. But it's going to start here in Myrtle Beach, because I'm here in Myrtle Beach. So we're going to start here in April, and then May we're going to Texas, and then June we're going to Illinois, and then New York, and then we'll come back to Atlanta, then we'll come to North Carolina, just different places. But we're going to make our little rounds. And it's an opportunity for authors to come together. And you said something earlier, you know, I'm a domestic violence survivor. I was shot point blank range with a sawed-off shotgun. I shouldn't be here. But on my bed of affliction, I asked God if he would raise me up, that I would always share his goodness. And I knew I didn't want to be in a pulpit, but I knew that he would give me a platform, or he would give me something that would allow me to do that. So I started writing books, and it gave me the opportunity to do these interviews. And every time I would talk to people before the interview or whatever, and I would always tell them it's more than books. And every time I would come on a live, it always started off as books, but before the end, I'll be no minister to somebody. I'll go back and look at the video, or somebody will say, Angela, I don't remember what I said, and I look at the video and it just don't even seem like that was me. Like that was you, girl. Like, but God just began to deal with me, and it became more than books. And it just became about people and purpose, and understanding that we didn't get dropped out of the sky, that there's a reason why we're here, and we're not meant to be alone. He give us all helpmates, one for another, and I needed that on tonight. Every single word that you spoke, I needed that. And sometimes that's what it takes. The visionary had to come from behind the scene so that I could receive this on tonight. See, God don't make mistakes. So I'm grateful. I'm thankful, and we definitely will be in touch. Um, is there anything that you would like to share before we leave?
No, I just wanted to tell you that I just keep hearing land, real estate for you, real estate, but I hear land, real estate. So um, just be seeking the Lord, and that um, I sense that He wants not just you to have land. So just be prayerful about that. That's something that I know. I just keep hearing that. But no, I'm good. I'm grateful to be here. Thank you for the opportunity to share your platform. I thank God for everybody that's watching and will be watching. I pray that if there's any mother out there or fathers that are out there that are going through, especially during this time, during the holiday season, maybe they've lost a son or a daughter, maybe their son or daughter or daughter is no longer in their life. Maybe they're just estranged, like my son is. I pray that God will give comfort to your heart this holiday season. And I pray for you that have lost a son, or maybe have a son or daughter incarcerated, that you be encouraged and just be strengthened in this time, and knowing that God has a plan for them. And he's not the God of he's not a God of a second chance. He's the God of another chance. And there's a big difference between a second chance and another chance. He keeps giving you another chance as long as you're breathing. So be strengthened and be encouraged tonight, Father. Be encouraged, Mother, that you will see the reward before the Lord closes your eyes, that you will see destiny fulfilled. Because God is not a man. He can't lie. Whatever he promises you, he will bring it to pass. God bless you. Thank you for having me, woman of God, visionary Angela. God bless you so much. I'm honored to be on your platform. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. You be blessed and have a good night.
Have a blessed night. Thank you. Peace.